I had always known that marriage required a certain level of trust. But trust, like glass, is fragile. Once cracked, even if you manage to glue it back together, the fractures remain. It started with a message, a simple, anonymous message that shattered everything I thought I knew. If you want to know the truth about your husband, go to 14B Adebayo Street, Surulere, tomorrow, 3 p.m. I stared at the words on my phone screen, my heart pounding in my ears. It had come from an unknown number, and there was no follow up message, no explanation, just that single line. For the rest of the evening, I barely heard a word of the Nollywood movie playing on the TV. My mind ran in circles. Bashir was away on another one of his business trips, just like he always was. Had something happened to him? Was this a scam? Or was I about to uncover something I wasn't meant to know? By the time I went to bed, I had convinced myself not to go. But when the clock struck 2:30 p.m. the next day, I found myself standing outside the house on Adebayo Street. It was a modest, well kept bungalow with a small, neat garden in front. Nothing about it looked suspicious, no signs of danger, no eerie atmosphere, just a normal house. I hesitated, my pulse erratic. Then, before I could change my mind, I knocked. A few moments later, the door opened and I came face to face with a woman. She was in her late 20s, a little younger than me, with smooth dark skin and wide startled eyes. She wore a simple Ankara dress, her hair wrapped in a neat scarf. "Can I help you?" she asked. I swallowed hard. I I got a message to come here. Her eyes flickered with something, recognition, panic. Then she stepped aside. "You should come in." I entered cautiously, my heart hammering as she shut the door behind me. And that was the moment my life changed forever. Bashir grew up in a home where hard work and sacrifice were the keys to survival. His parents were home performers, known for their stunning cultural displays at weddings and festivals. His father, an energetic dancer with a wide grin, and his mother, a graceful singer whose voice could bring tears to anyone's eyes, had taught him the power of performance from an early age. They always emphasized the importance of education, hoping it would lead Bashir to a better life than they had. But despite their efforts, he was left with a bitter taste in his mouth when he graduated and faced the brutal reality of the job market. His parents, ever supportive, congratulated him. "Bashir, you'll make us proud. The world is waiting for you," his mother said, her voice filled with hope. But despite his degree in hand, Bashir could barely find a job. The dream he had built up for years began to crumble. At home, his parents encouraged him not to give up, but their small home and uncertain future weighed on his heart. "There's no way I can keep up with these bills, let alone help you, Mama," he confessed to his mother one night, pacing the floor, feeling the walls closing in on him. Days turned into weeks, and soon Bashir's pride began to falter. He felt as though the weight of his family's expectations was too heavy to bear. One evening, as he walked down the street after a failed interview, his old friend Samir approached him. "You still haven't learned, huh?" Samir joked with a knowing look. "The world doesn't wait for people like us, Bashir. If you want to make it, you need to think bigger." Samir didn't need to explain further. Bashir saw the gleam in his eye, the kind that only came from knowing something Bashir didn't. He was introduced to the world of con artistry. Samir took him under his wing, teaching him the art of charm and deception. He could sell a lie as easily as one might sell a simple product, and soon Bashir was using his charm to manipulate wealthy women. Bashir's first client was a wealthy woman named Clara. She had everything: money, beauty, and a taste for the finer things. But she craved excitement, adventure, someone to whisk her away from her perfectly planned life. Bashir was that someone. Don't worry, Clara, I have big plans, big dreams that will make you even richer than you already are, he whispered, his voice smooth like velvet. He made her believe that with him she could be part of something extraordinary. He took her money, and as soon as she left, he bought gifts for his family, convincing himself it was all for the greater good. Later, as he looked in the mirror, he saw the man he was becoming. This is just temporary, he lied to himself. But each lie only added layers to the persona he was building. It wasn't long before Bashir met Amina, a beautiful and intelligent woman who seemed to be everything he needed: her grace, her wealth, her desire to help others. Bashir wasted no time. He charmed her, telling her he was a successful businessman with dreams of expanding his company. I've never met anyone with so much vision, Amina confessed one evening over dinner. I've been waiting for a man like you. Bashir smiled inwardly. This was working perfectly. He proposed within months, weaving a web of lies about his family's legacy and his success. But the longer he stayed in the marriage, the more he found himself trapped in the very web he'd spun. Why do you keep so much to yourself, Bashir? Amina asked, a look of concern in her eyes. You've never introduced me to your family. Bashir just smiled, diverting the conversation. Everything's just so busy right now, my love. I'll take you to meet them soon. Just be patient. Then came Ifeoma, a vibrant and free-spirited woman who worked as a designer. She caught Bashir's eye one night at a social event. He had already perfected the art of charming women into believing he was the answer to their every problem. To Ifeoma, he was a breath of fresh air, a successful man who knew what he wanted. I want to take you places you've never imagined, Ifeoma, he whispered as he promised her the world. You're everything I've been looking for. Within months, he married her, though this time he used a different name to maintain the illusion. But keeping both women in the dark wasn't easy. His life became a series of lies, juggling two completely separate lives. He kept them both in the dark, using his charm to escape questions and doubts. As Bashir continued his con, cracks began to appear. Amina, though deeply in love with him, grew suspicious. She noticed small inconsistencies: his sudden absences, his reluctance to introduce her to his family, his constant talk about business trips with vague details. One evening, Amina sat Bashir down. You've been avoiding me, Bashir. Why won't you introduce me to your family? I'm your wife. Bashir's heart raced, but he had an excuse prepared. They're just very private people, Amina. You know how it is with business families. It's complicated. She didn't buy it. And Ifeoma, what's the connection between you two? You've been avoiding her calls for weeks now. Bashir's throat went dry, but he was quick to respond. She's just someone from my past. Don't worry about her. You're my future. Basha had always been able to keep his two lives separate, at least for a while, but cracks were starting to appear. His business trips seemed endless, and Amina's suspicions were growing. Yet nothing prepared him for what was coming. It was a typical afternoon when Amina received a message that would shatter the calm facade Bashir had so carefully built. The text was from an unknown number, the message short but clear. If you want to know the truth about your husband, go to 14B Adebayo Street, Surulere, tomorrow, 3 p.m. Amina froze, her hand trembling as she read the words. She'd always felt something was off, but this confirmation left her uneasy and furious at the same time. How could he lie to her like this? And who was this woman? For a moment she considered confronting him, demanding answers. But no, that would be too easy, and she was not going to be the one who looked naive. She had to find out more. The next day she texted back, "Where and when?" The response was swift. "The address is on your phone. Come alone. You'll understand everything when you arrive." Amina's heart raced. She stared at the address in disbelief. It was a place she recognized, one of Bashir's old haunts. She knew he had lied to her about his past, but this was different. Something bigger was at play. Bashir thought he had everything under control, but soon both Amina and Ifeoma started investigating him separately. Amina hired a private investigator, while Ifeoma asked friends about his background. The pieces started coming together. His stories didn't align, his background was a mystery, and his business didn't exist. Amina arrived at the address that evening, her heart pounding in her chest. She had to know the truth. Bashir's elaborate lies had been carefully crafted, and for the first time she felt out of control. This woman knew something that could change everything. She stood outside the building for a moment, gathering her courage before stepping inside. The door creaked as she pushed it open, and there she was, another woman, sitting casually in a chair, with a knowing smile playing on her lips. "I was wondering when you'd show up," Ifeoma said, her voice low but confident. Amina couldn't hide her shock. "Who are you?" "I'm someone who's been lied to just like you. Someone who's been kept in the dark about the man we both love," Ifeoma responded, her eyes sharp. "I'm his wife too." Amina's breath caught in her throat. She had suspected, but now it was confirmed. Bashir had been playing them both for months, maybe even years. Amina was overwhelmed with emotions, anger, betrayal, confusion. "What do you want from me?" Amina asked, her voice shaky. Ifeoma stood up, moving closer, her eyes intense. "I want the truth. I want answers just like you do. And together we'll get them." The two women stood there for a long moment, the weight of the situation settling between them. They had been drawn into Bashir's web, but now they would fight to expose him for who he truly was. The conversation between Amina and Ifeoma was just the beginning. The more they talked, the more they realized just how deep Bashir's deception ran. Both women had felt the strain in their relationships, but now they understood that it wasn't just personal, it was calculated. Amina, ever the strategist, was the first to propose an investigation. "We need to know everything about him. We need to find out who he really is before he can twist his way out of this." Ifeoma nodded. "I've been suspicious for a while, but I never had proof. He's been so careful, so smooth. But now we know, don't we?" They agreed to meet again the next day to put their plan into motion. The investigation would be meticulous. Both women had resources. Amina through her business connections, and Ifeoma through her design industry contacts. Together they were a force to be reckoned with. They would leave no stone unturned. What followed was a period of sleepless nights and intense planning. The women discovered the full extent of Bashir's lies, how he had woven a web so intricate that even his family knew nothing of his double life. His business ventures were all fabrications, just like the stories he told them about his background. When Amina and Ifeoma finally gathered the courage to confront him, it wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming their lives and uncovering the truth once and for all. The women confronted Bashir together. their faces filled with disbelief and betrayal. Who are you, Bashir? Amina asked, her voice trembling. Who is the man I married? Who do you think you are, Bashir? Amina asked coldly, her eyes flashing with anger. You've been playing both of us, feeding us lies, manipulating us. Do you even know who you are anymore? Bashir's face went pale as he tried to salvage the situation, spinning another tale, but it was too late. Ifeoma stepped forward. The truth's already out, Bashir. You can't lie your way out of this one. Bashir, ever the liar, tried to twist the truth. You're both mistaken. I didn't want to tell you because I was afraid you wouldn't understand. But everything I've done has been for you. Ifeoma shook her head, her voice filled with anger. You lied to us. You used us. You're nothing but a fraud. The investigation had been a success. Both Amina and Ifelma had gathered enough evidence to expose Bashir's entire scheme. The women, now united, went to the authorities with the evidence they'd gathered. When the authorities arrived, it was clear that the man they had once known as Bashir was nothing more than a fraud. Bashir's empire of lies crumbled. He was arrested and charged for his fraudulent actions. Amina and Ifeoma watched as he was led away in handcuffs. As he was led away in handcuffs, his face a mask of disbelief, Amina and Ifeoma stood side by side, stronger than they had ever been before. The lies were no more, and they had taken back control. I never thought it would come to this, Amina said softly, her heart still heavy from the betrayal. But it's over now. Ifeoma nodded. It's over. We can finally be free. Ifeoma smiled, her gaze unwavering. We've both been through a lot, but now we can move on, and we will. As they watched Bashir disappear into the back of the police car, they knew that their futures were no longer tied to him. They were free. As they walked away, free from the man who had deceived them, they knew they would rebuild their lives stronger than ever.